In this video, we're going to be looking at a very important programming skill, understanding how to create a user interface for your program. Let's get on with it. In this video, we're going to look at how to create a menu. Now, most programs will present the user with some kind of menu, a series of options, so that they can interact with the program. So let's get started by making a simple function. So I'm going to use the define keyword, def, and my function is just called add. This is going to be a very simple function that stores two integers from the user and then adds them together. So I'm going to use the input function with a helpful message like type a number. I'll then go for a second variable num2, same thing, but this time I'm going to put type a number to add. Now remember, whenever you use the input function to get input from the user, it's always stored as a string. But I want to be able to add these numbers together, which means I need them to be stored as integers. So I'm actually going to convert the string that I get from that input into an integer straight away before it's stored. So num1 will now contain an integer rather than a string. Let's do the same thing over here. And now I'm simply going to print num1 plus num2. It's that simple. Now I'm going to fast forward a bit because I'm going to make 3 more for subtract, multiply, and divide. Okay, I'm all done. So take a quick look at those 4 functions. They're very, very simple. Each one asks the user for 2 numbers and then performs a calculation using them. The next step is to create a menu function that will allow the user to choose which of these 4 functions to run. I'm going to clean the space up a little bit just by collapsing the 4 functions that I've already made. You can easily expand them again. Now let's go ahead and create that menu function. So define menu bracket bracket colon. The first thing I want to do is present the user with the available options. Just use the print statement. So option 1 is going to be to add. Next one, print, and option 2 is going to be subtract. Option 3, multiply, and finally option 4 to divide. Now I'm going to actually call the menu function just so that we can see it working. There we go, the user is presented with 4 options. So now back inside my menu, I now need to ask the user to choose one. So I'm going to use the input function for that with a message like choose a number. I need to store whatever number they give me. So let's create a variable called choice. So choice is now going to contain 1, 2, 3, or 4. But remember, that will be a string. So let's go ahead and use an if statement to check which of those 4 numbers they've typed in. If choice is equal to 1, then they've chosen add, so I'm going to call the add function. Else if choice is equal to 2, then they've chosen subtract. So let's call the subtract function. If choice is equal to 3, then we need to call multiply. And you might be thinking that I can just throw else on the end here, because if they didn't choose 1, 2, or 3, they must have chosen 4. But I have to allow for the fact that they might have typed something completely different. So I'm not going to use an else just yet. I'm going to do a final elif. And if they chose 4, of course, I need to call divide. And now I can use my else statement. I'm going to give the user some kind of message telling them that what they typed in is invalid. So let's have invalid selection. Please try again. And to make it so that the user can try again, I can simply call the menu function again. So now let's run this. So there are my options. I'm going to start by testing the else part of that if statement. So if I just hit return without typing anything, it says invalid selection, please try again, and I'm presented with the 4 options again. If I try typing in add, well, it's expecting the number 1, 2, 3, or 4, so again it says invalid selection, please try again. As soon as I type in a valid selection, let's go for number 3, it says type a number, 10, type a number to multiply by, because it called the multiply function, type in 3, prints out the answer 30. So we can see that the if statement has worked. However, there are some things that we can do to improve this. First of all, my program has stopped. It would be great if the program went back to the menu after presenting the user with the answer. And to do that, what we could do is go inside each of these functions. After it prints the answer, we could recall the menu function. So I'll go ahead and do that in each of them. So now let's run our program again. Choose a number. So let's choose 1 to add. Type in a number, 5. Type a number to add, 2. It prints the answer 7, and then it goes back to the menu, so the user can now choose a different option. But there's another improvement that we could make to this program. Right now you can see that there are no line breaks at all between the first time the menu ran and the second time the menu ran. So ideally, after the program has outputted the answer, 7, I want there to be a slight gap before the next menu appears. So let's look at a couple of different ways that we can do this. If I open up each of the functions, I can quite easily go after the print, that's where the answer is, remember, and simply do an empty print statement, so that will print a blank line. Let's go ahead and test that. Remember, I've only put that on the add function for the moment, so let's go ahead and do 1 to add. Type a number, 10, type a number to add, 30, it prints the answer 40, and then there's that empty print. Now another way to do that, instead of putting a blank print statement in here, I could simply go inside the print statement that I've already got and add in a new line character. So after the num1 plus num2, that's the first thing I'm going to get that print statement to do, comma, I also wanted to print this. Quote, this is going to be a string, backslash n. That is the new line character. So choose a number, 1, type a number, 3, type a number to add, 4, it prints the answer 7, and there's that empty line, that new line. So now all I need to do is take that additional print parameter, that new line character, and simply copy and paste it into each of the functions. And now I should be able to run the program using any of the functions. Type a number, 100, multiplied by 5, it gives me the answer, and I always get that nice gap before the menu is called again. So there you go, a simple example of how you can incorporate a user menu into your programs. And there you go, that's how you can create a very simple user menu for your programs.